Hey there everyone, this is Eternal Snowman and I'm here because I just played an amazing game and I wanted to share it with you guys because I had so much fun. I was so excited at the end of the game and I thought that it was definitely worth something that you guys might be interested in. So I wanted to record it, I wanted to upload it, and so let me give you some background. This is Mute, the otherwise known as the most Ubers tournament ever, and I entered with a group of people. It's a team tour of 5 people, and every round, there's different restrictions on building for every player on the team. So my restriction for the first week was you had to use either Palkia or Solgaleo on your team, and it's pretty easy. I won that game nice and quickly. And this week, the restriction was that you had to bring a team that was, you had to bring a team that the usage percentages of all the Pokemon could not exceed 140%. So, for example, Primal Groudon is used in like 80% of matches or something like that, 83% of matches, and Xerneas is used in 45% of matches. So, those two Pokemon added together would be 125 or something, or 128, and then the rest of the Pokemon can't make up a certain amount. So this team, even though I have two of the most used Pokemon, Xerneas and Primal Groudon, I essentially added a bunch of Pokemon which I thought were very good Pokemon that could fulfill their roles very well without having huge percentages. And I felt like the most notable playstyles that I would be playing against would be HO and um, Stall, because those Pokemon aren't necessarily seen very much on other playstyles. And so I didn't expect to see balance or anything like that because essentially you wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things you could on balance because of the way that the Pokemon need to be used, since you can't have like generally Pidon, Xerneas, Giratina O would exceed, and that's like a very standard 3 Pokemon, and that's not even counting the other 3. And then like Yveltal, Xerneas, Pidon easily exceeds, like that kind of thing. So I brought this team, which was centered around Whirlpool, Arcdark, and Scarfstern, because these two Pokemon pair very well in terms of the Stall and HM matchups are easily crushed by both of these Pokemon, generally, except for Shell Bliss, which I actually did run into, which was funny. Overheat Pidon, very high pressure rocker. Keldeo was chosen because it can taunt, and its sub-CM set is normally pretty good at breaking. Stall, because Stall doesn't really have good answers to it. And then Giratina is chosen as a defogger as well as a way to beat Pidon reliably. Also helps versus the Stall matchup. Aegislash, Zerdancer, good versus Bio, good versus Stall, good versus or S-Ball helps it be good versus Stall, and H versus HO is very good because of its natural bulk. Alright, so let's jump into the replay. So let's play it and switch sides. Okay, so right off the bat, you'll notice from the team that he brought, it's most likely going to be a Stall team because it is Blissey, but it looks like kind of semi-Stallish. So he leads with Salamence. I go ahead and lead with Giratina because Giratina has a very good matchup against his team. Depending on what Arceus form he has, Giratina can pretty much just 6-0 or close to 6-0 his team because they can't touch it. It ends up being that the Arceus is Arceus Poison, and he cannot touch Giratina at all. Like throughout the entire match, there's no way for him to kill Giratina outside of status. And even then, he can't prevent rest because he doesn't have any taunts or whatever. So I lead Giratina. He switches to Blissey, scouting for most likely Wisp or some sort of status, whatever I'm running. I go Arcdark. And at this point, he reveals. I reveal Whirlpool, and he reveals Shell Bliss because there's no reason why he would switch in otherwise. And so I double Whirlpool, expecting him to try to switch out. He doesn't. I taunt on Killed. I'm just going to skip through these first turns because they're not super impactful other than revealing sets. So and just point out the sets. Arceus has P-Jab. Salamence is Defog, and Keldeo, Ferrothorn doesn't reveal anything special, but I kind of make a mistake here because I let Pidon get chipped early. And I do very well after this point to preserve its HP throughout the entire match, because Pidon's HP ends up being very important in this match because it's my rocker, and my rocks is a good way of pressuring his team. And the only answer to, or like the best answer he has is Salamence. So I go Xerneas, and I essentially cleanse Arceus, because the original way I was looking at this game was trying to trap something with Arceus Dark. Essentially try to trade Toxics with Blissey and then try to essentially trap something with Arceus Dark and see if I could wiggle something out. And that's kind of, he reveals Wisp on Arceus, meaning that the only way he can touch Pidon is Poison Jab Poison, which I don't really want to risk either, but he essentially can go for all my Pokemon. He has a safe answer for, in terms of I can't offensively pressure his team well. For Aegislash, he can go Arceus Poison. For Giratina, he can go Pharaoh or Skarm. For Keldeo, he can go Arceus Poison, Pharaoh, or Blissey, or even Mence. And for Pidon, he can go Mence. For Zern, he can go Arceus Poison. And for Ho-Oh also, but he doesn't know this because he doesn't know my set yet. And then for Arceus, he can go Blissey. So he has a safe switch into everything. And I then have to play safely around his options. So my original tactic was to try to trap something, but I realized towards the middle of the game that it's probably unlikely that I'm going to be able to trap something consistently. So I pretty much go around, and the middle of this game is pretty boring. I'm just trying at this point, because I let a lot of my Pokemon get status, I need to try to get off a couple of aromatherapies. I get that one off. And Giratina is pretty much just safe because it'll PP stall with pressure. It'll pressure a lot of Pokemon, and it'll force out anything that's not toxic immune. And that's the important part, because he can't risk Blissey. He can't use Blissey's Heal Bell just for no reason. And he also, you should notice that I'm PP stalling importantly, because every time a move is used on Gira, it'll take up 2 PP because of pressure. And so in the end, I want to be using this as a PP war. And I'm getting small advantages by kind of wasting his PP here and there, but not really big ones. So essentially every time one of my at this point I thought it was hopeless, because I didn't think I had a win condition. Giratina would run out of PP before he would, before I would. So that was I thought that was my thinking at this time. And I was just trying to waste as much PP as possible, switching between. And then, I don't want to burn too much rest PP either, because then he can toxic me till I die. But towards the middle of this game, here, I believe, no. I kind of, okay, so then he reveals Bullet Seed on Pharaoh, meaning he doesn't have Gyro. But that means that Keldeo can't go through his team at some point, because Keldeo would normally be able to set up on Pharaoh, because I would sub on the Pharaoh and then CM, and then he can't touch me at all. But he has B-Seed, so that's bad for me. And I'm also trying to catch the Spike and Leech Seed from Pharaoh every time on Gira, because those two moves will also take up 2 PP. And those moves are crucial to the game because if he has no Leech Seed, he can't threaten Piton, really, and if he has no spikes, then, or like if every time he spikes, all my Pokemon are affected by spikes, so I should try to get spikes off the field as much as possible. And he recognizes this and he tries to force me to defog a lot and try to keep spikes on the field as much as possible. So, okay, at a certain point, I catch Ho with Toxic. This is important because if I catch Pokemon with Toxic that aren't Toxic immune, then he's forced to Heal Bill because they can't check the Pokemon that they want to check. Ho isn't exactly the most important Pokemon in this matchup, but it does do things like kill Adrian. That's the only Pokemon he has that can kill Adrian and threaten it and do any significant damage other than Feral Leech Seed. So he's just always going to spike when he sees Gira because I don't have Sleep Talk on Gira, so it's safe for him to spike. And but he's actually using up more PP because spikes would only have 16 PP if I play it perfectly. Obviously, he has a little bit more than that because of the fact that I won't be able to play it perfectly. But he then reveals at this point in the game. This is where I feel in a really bad position because at this point in the game, he reveals the fact that he's going to essentially spam Whirlwind on Skarmory, and that's one of his win conditions. And that's really bad for me because I don't really have a good way of dealing with it other than just killing Skarmory outright. I don't know what Skarmory's last move is, so it could be Brave Bird. Unlikely, but it could be. So even Keldeo's taunt isn't safe. I hit it and I essentially force him out, and I get a free defog on Gira. And then this is where I kind of go into the PP wars. So I have to essentially try to get PP, keep hazards off at all costs, and get some PP wars going. And at this point in the game, it's pretty boring. I don't really get anything done significantly, but importantly, Skarmory is now at 53% because it took a Zern Mean Blast. And this is extremely crucial to the game because in the end, it means that he's in range for a lot of moves and he can't just spam Whirlwind. Importantly, he's in the range of, well, obviously Pinon because Sturdy is broken. It's in range of what he thinks it's in range of Keldeo. It's actually not in range of Keldeo because I'm running 0 special attack Keldeo with Scald and Taunt. But he's also in range for Aegislash and Giratina. Aegislash, Zern, and Arceus Dark. And Pinon, of course. But he's not going to stay on Piton. So I try to trade Toxic with Blissey. It doesn't work out for me. So I'm forced to rest here. But he gets a layer of spikes. And he goes Skarmory. And I'm essentially put into... He Whirlwinds here, which I thought was a bad play. Because if he rested, he would be in a much better position. He then Toxics my Arceus. And this is where the first big play of the game happens. And that's... I try to go for this move because I think that this is the play. I essentially want to get rid of Ho-Oh. I catch Ho-Oh because he's expecting me to switch to something, and I catch Ho-Oh. I'm assuming he's expecting Zern or Ag. But I essentially kill Ho-Oh, but I also almost lose Arceus, which is really bad. But in the end, it doesn't super matter. He then gets a 5-hit B-Seed, which is really bad for me. And I keep catching his Leech Seeds on Gira, which is important because it means that he's running out of Leech Seed extremely quickly. Also, something else important to note is that if I'm defogging at 2 spikes, then I'm continuously outvaluing him. Because at a certain... he has 32 PP on spikes, 32 PP on Stealth Rocks, but I only have 24 PP on Giratina's defog. So when is it the right time to defog and when is it not? And when should I be switching in Giratina to try to catch these Stealth Rocks and spikes? Because even if I catch every single one, but I only defog on one spike or one stealth rock, I'm going to lose out on PP, by 8 PP in fact. But if I can manage to catch those situations and get 2 layers of spikes caught, or 3 layers of spikes, or even 1 layer of spikes and 1 layer of stealth rocks, etc., then Giratina gets so much more value out of the defog. This is extremely important towards the later stages of this game. But another thing to note is that my team also has a huge advantage compared to his when looking at defensive situations, because he can't touch Aegislash pretty much anymore. Hoa was his only way of touching Aegislash, but now it's gone. You can't touch Giratina, and most of the time, and these two Pokemon, he has no way of beating them because they're either Toxic Immune or, in Giratina's case, can just rest it off. So I can just spam S-Ball on AG2 because the only 2 switch-ins he has is Arceus Poison and Blissey, and Blissey eats a Toxic and is forced. And Arceus Poison is dangerous, but okay. He goes for Stealth Rocks. This is where he reveals Stealth Rocks. Or I believe he did it before anyway, but Zern dies, but I get a free defog on Giratina. And he misses Toxic, which is lucky for me. Aegislash is a free switch in there. And I go Arc Dark trying to predict the spike. He goes Bullet Seed actually to mix it up, so the good on him, in fact, but I get a free Groudon Birth, but he still has Mence, and Mence completely pretty much ignores everything that I do, and I can't really do anything, so I predict the Farago and go Groudon, but once again it's useless because Mence completely walls me, I can't do more than 50, he Toxics, and he finally goes Mega, but I'm losing, at this point I'm like losing considerable amount, and I go for S-Ball and Salamence. Once again, he has no safe switch-ins in AG, and he's forced out. I have to go for Toxic, and then and then he predicts my rest on Skarmory, which is really good on him. And he Whirlwinds me out, of course, and I go Keld. And this is an extremely big turning point in the game because it's very nice that I got Keldeo. The only Pokemon that would have been better is, possibly, is Primal Groudon, in which case I could fish for a Overheat crit, or possibly, maybe not even. And I go Keldeo, I get the sub off on the switch to Arceus Poison, I get the Calm Mind, and I eliminate Arceus Poison from the game. I win this speed tie. Okay, so we're both EV'd 327. The reason why I'm EV'd this much is because it outspeeds max speed, Zern, and Yveltal, which is important. I should have creeped one more. I think. Wait, am I? Yeah, I'm 327. So this was actually really bad on my part because I should have been creeping 328. Because what I should be creeping towards is what the Arceuses are creeping, because I'm trying to creep Arceus on this set, so I should have been 328 because then that would have outsped all the Arceuses that are trying to outspeed Zern and Yveltal, which is what Arceus Poison does, because there's no reason for him to outspeed Lucario on that set. So we got a speed tie. We won the speed tie. This is extremely crucial because if Arceus Poison doesn't go down at this point in the game, then, or because it goes down here, he doesn't have anything to deal with Aegislash. Everything else is put on a significant timer because Arceus Poison takes 30% from S-Ball, and I have to fish for, essentially, and he can Wisp it, and then I have to fish for Spadef drops. But everything else, it takes, or for Pharaoh, it doesn't have reliable recovery other than Seed, and I can essentially PP stall the Seed with the Gira, and Mence and Blissey are put on a timer with Toxic, and then Skarmory takes more than 50 from S-Ball, and then one Spadef drop means that he can't stay in. So AG is completely safe versus Mence, and at this point in the game I have a huge advantage because he has almost no way of dealing with AG. And the only thing that he can do is Seed, and I'm essentially at this point, I completely switched mentalities because after Arceus and Zern died, I was thinking that I was gonna lose, but I realized that at this point that I actually have a way of winning, which is PP stalling all his Pokemon of their important moves, which is for Pharaoh, Leech Seed, and Blissey, maybe Heal Bell, and that kind of stuff, and Roost on the other two Pokemon. So this is like essentially my win condition is PP stalling Pharaoh and or getting specific Pokemon in. So I make a couple really good plays. The first, okay, so I'm also, or I trade Toxics to force it out, and I get rid of a Spike. And rest is free on Giratina because, importantly, the reason why rest and no sleep talk is so good on Giratina in this matchup is because rest means that I get 3 turns of PP for 1 move, meaning that rest essentially gives me 48 PP. And Giratina, the reason why it's so good is because the PP stall for 48 or like for 3 turns, instead of him using 3 turns of PP, he would probably use 6 or similar, depending on the move he uses. Normally, the ones that are self-affecting, like for example, Dragon Dance or Soft Boiled, the ones that aren't affected by pressure, these ones are more important to the Pokemon, other than the setup moves. But like I'm saying, for Soft Boiled, for recovery moves against Stall, these recovery moves are more important. So if I force them to burn those moves because they cost less PP, it's even more advantageous in some situations. So I then get free. I'm pretty sure that was the last Leech Seed on this turn. This one was the last Leech Seed at some point, and I go. So that's why I go Groudon. And something important to note is that if I get Stealth Rocks and he defogs away his own spikes, this is hugely advantageous for me. So this happens at a couple points in the game, but the reason why this is so good is because it means that some of the PP that he's using, normally maybe 2 PP or even 4 PP that he's using, is going to waste because it's trading with Groudon, which is huge, 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 huge. He's trading 4 PP, 3 or 4 PP for 1 PP, and essentially resetting the field. So now at this point, I'm just spamming S-Ball and AG. I run into S-Ball at some point because I just spammed it and I didn't use it like that well. I catch Blissey on the switch with Toxic, and I go Gira. He goes Skarm. I get kind of lucky with that, but not super. Haba! Right, sorry. And then, yeah, and so at this point, he doesn't really have that much to do, so I get the defog off on Skarm. AG then pretty much cleans up. He doesn't really have a safe way to deal with it, so I go Groudon, and he has to defog again. He defogs away, I get the Toxic. It doesn't really matter at this point. And I miss the Toxic, which is like sucks, but like not really that big of a deal. I catch, or no, I don't. And I go Pidon, or wait, no, never mind. Yeah, I go Pidon on Pharaoh. I get the Stealth Rocks. He goes B-Seed. I roar him out of the Protect because I was predicting Ments actually, and he goes in. It goes into Blissey. He stays in. He gets Precipice bladed. This is important. This means that nothing switches into S-Ball. S-Ball is free as hell, and he gets another defog. This means like so much PP is wasted on his part. And I'm just spamming S-Ball at this point because he has pretty much no answers to it, and the rest of the game is pretty free because it's just PP stalling with Gira. The replay broke, but essentially I PP stall Gira, go AG, PP, and blah blah, do the shenanigans. I get a good read at the end with Pidon, and I go get an overheat free into Pharaoh, and then I win. And that's about it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I just want to share this game with you because I thought it was one of the best games I played personally, because I thought I made a lot of reads, and even though the matchup was like, I guess, slightly in my favor, I thought I played it very well. And it ended up being a very heavy PP style game, but it was very exciting to play. If you can call style exciting to play. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time for another recap and analysis video.